For a limited time at Sprint, get $50 for each new phone you lease when you switch. That's right. You'll get $50 for each new phone on a prepaid MasterCard issued by MetaBank member FDIC. Just register for the card online and you're good to go. Get a network built for unlimited and a great price at Sprint. It's the best of both worlds. And get $50 on a prepaid MasterCard for each phone you lease. Visit a Sprint store this weekend only for sizzling Sprint Saturday deals.
Card terms, conditions, and expiration apply.
Blog Talk Radio.
Uncle Jasonib, 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 Uncle Jasonib. Uncle Jasonib, 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 Uncle Jasonib. Uncle Jasonib, 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 Uncle Jasonib. Uncle Jasonib, 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 Uncle Jasonib. Uncle Jasonib, 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 Uncle Jasonib. Uncle Jasonib, 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 Uncle Jasonib.
Tapu, Alafia, Jambo, peace and love to everyone. We welcome you again to another version program of our show, Raseki Radio. And this is Mukajara. I am here with my sister Aura. Peace and love, sis.
Peace and love.
How you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling pretty good, very good. Excited about tonight and our discussion tonight, and just excited about the many things that are happening within the temple and the things that we are approaching at this time, and just grateful for love in its many forms. So how are you, Mukajara?
I'm thankful as well. We do have a lot going on, and we have a few announcements to make this evening, but we do want to go ahead and open up with our prayer as always. So I'm going to pass it back to you, sis.
Right. Take a deep breath and center ourselves. We give thanks to the Most High, known by many names, Creator of all things, great and small. We give thanks to the divine that is within and that surrounds us. And we're grateful for our ancestors, our ships, that lived their lives in a noble and righteous way. And we are grateful for the most benevolent outcome of love in our lives, in our homes, in our communities, in our hearts, in our minds. Please guide us that we may nurture love in our lives. Guide those that are unmated, unpaired, to find their divine mate. Guide those mated pairs so that they may nurture and sustain their divine and sacred relationships. Bless the fruit full of seed to continue to produce a lineage of love in our families, in our communities, amongst our people, and throughout the world. May this divine love make a positive change in our environment and throughout this whole entire universe. May our unions and pairing be healthy and whole, that we are healed from past hurts and regrets. We pray for the longevity of peace in our minds and our hearts as we continue forward from this day on. Dua, Most High, Dua, Great Ones, Dua, Heteru, Dua, Shep, Amen Ra, Ma'at.
Dua, Dua. Beautiful prayer.
Thank you.
And very timely for our topic and the time that we are in. And before we get into our topic for this evening, I know that we are still talking about and dealing with our brothers and sisters in Flint, Michigan. And I have heard that lawsuits are starting to be filed, and also some good news that money is starting to be put aside for people to have their pipes replaced in that area. So I was really thankful to see that, because I know sending bottled water is helpful for now, but, you know, for the long term, that is something that is really needed for our people there. So I was thankful to see that little progress happening, even though the situation overall is just quite sickening.
Oh, yeah. And we are grateful for the people who are sending water, because it was an immediate need. We are made mostly of water, and it's very essential. And this is something that is so essential to the point that it is included in the 42 laws of Ma'at, that we will not waste water. And our great ancestors saw it to be of importance to make it law. And what is so mind-boggling at this point is still there's no accountability for the governor, for the mayor, for the decision makers who made such reckless choices and decisions with people's lives and health. And I'm grateful that lawsuits are coming forward. It's amazing to me that I found out that the governor was refusing to even make any further responses in regards to the water situation. And let this be a lesson to us all that we must make preparations for making certain that we secure our natural water resources and fresh water supplies, so that in times of uncertainty, because we never know what may or may not occur, and it's always best to be prepared, even if you don't, and to not need it, than to need it and not be prepared. So I'm grateful to hear these things. We must continue to pray. We must continue to lend support for those who are very well versed with law. Please help our brothers and sisters. For those who are very familiar with the Department of Corrections, pray for our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated all over. But definitely pray for the ones that are in Flint, Michigan, because I did get some reports that the distribution of water filters were being used to deliver warrants for arrest. And also there are complaints from the inmates that they are not getting the bottled water. They are being told that they have a filtration system, but none of the staff are drinking from the faucet. They're all drinking bottled water, but the inmates are left to drink from what is coming from the tap. So there's some room and reason to not believe that they are being treated humanely. So those are, some concerns, but we are grateful for the good news, and we look forward to hearing more.
Yes, most definitely. And as you said, it is good for us to send water and do whatever we can, and I would say this is definitely a time for us to find something to rally behind and work towards bringing change to. So if it is the water situation, if it is the high level of incarceration in our communities, whatever it is that you are drawn to work for, we need to be more active. We do a lot of talking and not seeing as much action. So this is the time where we are being called to action. All the things that we are seeing happening around us is a call for us to stand up and speak up and do something. So I'm just, prayer is a part of it, but, some of our grandmothers say prayer without works.
It's dead.
We have to, we're going to put the prayers up, but we also put in some action and some work in effect. As much as
this is not either or. We got to do both.
We have to do both. We have to do everything we can, really. And that brings me to the sister on the program. I don't really watch ball games at all, But, of course, being on social media, I did get to see the pictures of the video of the woman's performance, and I really don't pay much mind to that kind of stuff usually, but I have to say I was really kind of happy to see, the Black Panthers being saluted at the Panther game. It was a very powerful spiritual thing going on, and it had the effect, for me, it seemed to have the effect to say, don't forget who we are, because I saw a lot of comments from others that were like, oh, no, we came out like that. I can't believe it. And it's like, yeah, that's who we are. So, we can protest in many, many ways, and it is good to see someone who has the ability to stand up and make a difference and speak up to actually use it in a way that's beneficial for the people. So I did want to just add that out there as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm grateful to see celebrities that are using, a lot of times, we often see the ones that are abusing their status and their power. And sometimes you might have the same one at one point that's abusing or not doing the right thing, but then at another point in time, it's like something must have woke them up. So, I mean, and that just goes to show that we are all on our own journey and we can't count one another out. And, just gotta just take it all in stride, because the thing is that we all have choices to make on a daily basis. And at this point, it's so beautiful to see us celebrating ourselves. And we need to continue to do so and not wait for somebody else's permission to do so, because if you wait for someone's permission to do so, then you will never be able to. So I like to adopt the philosophy of, just you have to, if those who matter won't mind, and, those who mind, they don't matter. So, because nobody on this planet should apologize for being who they are, and we should not be put in that position, and nor should we assume that position anymore. And, hey, get in formation. I'm with it. So, people can say what they want, and, again, we all have to do our part, play our role. If you are very clear on what your purpose is, then do that. If you have a voice that makes a difference, use it. So that I salute anyone who is playing their part and making it known. That, yes, we are here, we're not going anywhere, and, just displaying the beauty and the power that we hold within ourselves. So, ashe.
Yeah, ashe. And we know that we are in this spiritual warfare, and remedy for the warfare is to have the attitude of gratitude and to carry the energy of the love vibration. So we are very honored and thankful to have our special guests with us this evening, who are love promoters, I would say. And we have Nwasha and Montsho and Nwasha, who are global leaders in relationship empowerment. Their professional passion is sharing the sacred science of soulmating to restore the image of Black love as the prototype for humanity's love expression. They are the authors of several books and co-founders of the Akoma House Initiative, a culturally based counseling and consulting firm committed to enhancing the quality of intimate personal and professional relationships. They are internationally recognized as the creators of Akoma Day, the cultural alternative to Valentine's Day, which is currently celebrated in 13 countries. And we are very thankful to bring on our guests, Montsho and Nwasha. Welcome, peace and love.
Hotep, Akoma.
Peace and love.
Oh,
thank you so much for having us.
Oh, thank you so much. Joining in. And had to prove to both of you. And if we're just going to start out, if you would, just tell us a little bit more about yourselves.
Okay, so I'll start. We are just a happily married soulmate team. And, you know, our focus, our contribution to the family, to the universal family, is love and the sacred science of soulmating, the intimate relationship that is the seed of all nation building, that is the missing ingredient that is unmastered by our people at this time. And so the majority of our work, you know, is about, well, all of our work is about relationships. The first relationship being the relationship that one has with their self, and then their intimate partner, family, friends, and associations as it moves toward, you know, from singularity, unity, the modemo, the oneness of God, coming back into that multiplicity that then brings us back to unity. So we just about love. That's what our work is about love.
All right. All about love. And go ahead and tell us a little bit more about Akoma.
Well, Akoma Day is based on the Adinkra symbol, the Akoma, that we commonly refer to as the heart. So that shape really has a spiritual meaning, a spiritual understanding that is the science of soulmating. So we really wanted to create something and offer something for ourselves and for humanity that realigns our love rituals with something that is more spiritual, more grounded, and more based in our indigenous culture. So we said we don't want to just tell people to stop celebrating Valentine's Day, and we don't want to not celebrate love, but some of the things, some of the rituals that are involved in Valentine's Day are actually anti-successful, happy, fulfilling spiritual relationships. So we said we're the oldest people on the planet, and we have the oldest gestures of love, and we just really need to realign with those practices. So we outlined Akoma Day, which is a 7-day holiday alternative to Valentine's Day that focuses on different principles and different virtues for each of the 7 days so that we can really recommit to love in our relationships.
Okay. And then we are. Okay.
Look, I want to hear about the 7 principles.
Okay. So Akoma Day is officially celebrated from February 14th to February 20th. It has 7 days. It has 7 virtues, 7 principles, 7 symbols that represent Black love in as universal service. So there are 7 principles and 7 virtues that are, number one is flexibility. And so in our love relationships, we know that we need to be flexible in our approach, especially for our brothers who are out there. You know, we tend in our interpretation of our Hebrew energy or our masculine energy, we have emotional inflexibility. So we want to be flexible. Is the first virtue. The second virtue is patience. We want to have patience in the way that we deal with one another in our intimate relationships, but also we learn a lot of patience for those of us that are children. We have 5, so you have to have a lot of patience to exchange in a loving way. Third virtue is faithfulness. We want to be faithful to our commitments, to our understanding of who we are and how we get down in the world, how we present ourselves to the world and in our love relationships. Virtue 4, we want to be consistent. We want to be doing the same thing at the same time most of the time. And through that consistency, we reach virtue number 5, which is the endurance, the ability to last long. This is something that I work with a lot with the men, because when men get to a limit, they tend to cut off quickly. I'm out. I'm done. I had enough. That's it. I'm cutting off. I don't deal with this. I don't celebrate that. We don't have emotional endurance. And so virtue 5 is endurance. Virtue 6 is fondness and goodwill. Listen, in our relationships, sometimes we have so much of a pretense when it comes to love. Oh, I love you. I love you too. That we stop liking each other. We stop having fun with one another. We stop being friends in our relationships. And so virtue 6 is fondness and goodwill. And then finally, the 7th virtue of Akoma Day is forgiveness, the ability to understand that we're in a time of imperfection, and oftentimes we don't do the things that we're supposed to do. We don't perform to our best abilities. But at any given time, we are always more than anything we think, say, or do. And so that we can realign ourselves, and learning to forgive ourselves becomes the impetus of our ability to forgive in the other relationships. So those are the 7 virtues, and I'll let Nwasha drop the 7 principles.
The 7 principles go with the virtue. So each day when you're actually celebrating, you would focus on one virtue and one principle for the day. But the principles are the soulmate science. So it is the unification of whatever, intimate couple or family or group is focused on the unifying principles. So the first principle is unified purpose. And it's very important to have purpose in your relationships, because without it, you can be distracted. You can have a hard time actually enduring or loving or, accepting the challenges that actually bring our character development. Without purpose and a clear understanding of that, it can be very difficult to really feel unified. The second principle is unified labor. So once you know your purpose, your work in that purpose is clear. It's more laid out for you, and there's a path in that. So we promote intimate couples, families, to really have a unified purpose so that they have some type of unified work together. A lot of times people complain that they grow apart from a mate, but we always say if you don't plan to grow together, you're probably going to grow apart. So we say if you have a unified labor, you're more likely to be able to appreciate each other and grow together. So from that unified labor, you are transformed. So the third principle is unified transformation. That is really representing the growth that you can do individually, but also that you can recognize your relationships are going through those same life cycle highlights, and that you really need to transform and make changes so that you can appreciate each other and grow and really make a contribution. So the fourth principle is once you are making a transformation, you actually have the fruit of your purpose and your work and your transformation. So the fourth principle is unified fruit. Whatever you are actually working towards, you're producing something. So those are what, sometimes people refer to as your spiritual children and your literal children, but all of the actual things that you're manifesting from your work, we would want that to be unified. So that's from the literal perspective of really coming together and setting a unified tone for your family and for your children, but also recognizing that when two people come together, whatever they're creating is a unified fruit. So even if it's just a conversation, you have to recognize that there's a contribution from all sides. The fifth principle is a unified mind. So that's really coming together in your thought process and having a unified thought base and really being unified in yourself with your thoughts and understanding that energy is going to be shared and come off of you and come to your mate. So if you can both, focus on reading something together or having conversations together that help you see what your mate's thought process is and become unified, that is a way to solidify your soulmate relationship. And then the sixth principle on the sixth day is unified body. So that is really what you can do physically that is unified. So that involves, setting a certain schedule so that you actually make the time to connect, whether that's on a date night, a spiritual day, your food, your spiritual food, spiritual nutrition, and your physical nutrition. But the things that you're taking in should be unified. And that can be working out together, taking walks together, but just that whole idea of your physical self being unified with a person. And then the last principle is unified spirit. So that is the unified soul energy, the understanding of the collective and the fact that you are really coming from a singular place when you're conceived and born into, a separate physical existence. But the idea that you are really unified with your mate and with the external, all of our people are really one. So that idea of recognizing a higher, greater spiritual self in your relationship is definitely very important. So those are the principles that we really focus on from day to day, but we do say Akoma Day is every day because you want successful relationships all throughout the year, every day, and you want that to endure even going into your professional relationships and your friendships. But this is the time as a community ritual that we believe you can hone in and really set a tone for yourself. So really, we know that you and your audience understands ritual, but we always tell people that a ritual is really connecting you with your spiritual self or your emotional self. And it's an opportunity for you to have a love ritual that really helps you set goals and helps you take a look at the progress that you've made for the year or whatever challenges that you've had that you really want to overcome. But it is something completely different from just buying teddy bears or candy or flowers for just one day as a more empty gesture. So we know Valentine's Day is almost about to be $20 billion. So it's a lot of money spent for one day, and most people do not feel like their love relationships are any better for it. So you have a whole group of people who are just going to break up and have a terrible Valentine's Day, and then you have another group of people who really want love but don't understand the rituals that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. That is very powerful. I love to do rituals anyway, but the unified principles are just outstanding. And we talk about having unity and working together, and I think sometimes we really don't know how to work together. So you all have done a wonderful job at outlining some strategies for us to use. And for 7 days, I think we can use them, throughout the year as well. We can just keep them going for our relationships in all ways, like you said, because, intimate relationships need to be unified as well as family, other, family relationships, parents and children and siblings. And so you all do encourage families to do them as well? To work with
definitely. A lot of times, when you look at Valentine's Day, for example, there is a hyper promotion of the intimate relationship. And it's kind of crazy because even that intimate relationship is promoted amongst children. And so we could get into some of the history and signs and symbols of Valentine's Day and how it's crazy as hell in a minute. But with Akoma Day, we definitely like to extend, we understand that as African, Nubian, Kushite, Kemetic people, black people that emanate all over the universe and throughout this earth, the intimate relationship, the sacred science of soulmating is the impetus of everything that we're doing. We all are here in this physical realm because two people came together and made it in the moment and brought us from the ancestral realm back here, right? So we always start with that because that is all of our beginning. But at the same time, we want to say that the expression of love, black people without question have started the idea of love and given the symbol, the Akoma that we commonly miscall the heart, to the world. And so we definitely want to bring more love in our relationship. So, like, for example, with the brothers, I talk about emotional fitness and emotional responsibility, the ability to have, flexibility in our feelings toward one another as brothers, and to be able to have dexterity and strength, emotional strength, and emotional longevity. Nwasha talks about cooperation versus competition with the sisters to really have a unity, a Osnebet Het unity of sisterhood, and then how we emanate from that. And so that goes on from, our cultural legacy where the elders connect with the youth. In America today, we don't really value elders or give them the esteemed place that they have. And a lot of times, we talked about the 42 laws of Ma'at, which is one of the tenets of Akoma Day. The children, one of the last two laws of Ma'at is not to mistreat children or not to mistreat animals. And so, the children are being abused. And so this idea of love being service is applicable to the whole black diaspora, the whole family, everybody, the world. So, we like to say, and we get into it in the book, that Akoma Day is not just for the intimate couple, because a lot of times people get alienated, or they'll say, I'm not in a relationship, so I don't know how Akoma Day applies to me, or I'm in a polygamous relationship or whatever. All of these things are parts of our culture, and so we deal with those. And so Akoma Day is universal love, but it really starts with the intimate couple, the sacred science of soulmating.
All right. And I appreciate you saying that I call it the Sankofa symbol, but the Akoma symbol, which is an Akan symbol, which comes from Ghana. So how did it get connected with Valentine's Day? And can you also, just for our listeners, share some of the details about Valentine's Day so we can understand why it's so important for us to have our own Black Love Akoma Day celebration?
Right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna deal with just the symbol, and then I'm gonna let Nwasha start to get into Valentine's Day. Basically, the symbol now, the Akoma is a little bit different than the Sankofa. If we look at what we commonly call the heart, that is what an Akoma is. The Sankofa is actually that same symbol, but with the ends kind of bended up. I mean, we don't have the visual, but I know many of your audiences have seen the Sankofa and the Akoma. I know everybody in America has seen the Akoma because we call it the heart, when in fact it's not shaped like the physical heart at all. It represents the divine unity. So if you could look at the symbol in your mind, imagine it in your mind, the bottom point of the symbol that we commonly call the heart or miscall the heart represents the spiritual realm, and it represents a science that our ancestors taught us about called the sacred science of soulmating. And at that bottom point, man and woman are literally one being in the spiritual realm. They are separated at conception, not at birth, but at conception. One is placed into the womb of a woman somewhere else, maybe sometimes years later, another one is placed. These two people are actually the soulmates of one another. Now, if you look at the shape, as it comes up from the bottom point, it goes two separate paths, but they're parallel. And they come over what we call the humps of the heart, and they reconnect. The place that they reconnect is actually aligned with the bottom point, and it represents that we overcome our character development, our rites of passage, which is the humps. Like today, we say Wednesday is hump day in a typical American business week. That when you get over the hump, that means you got over, you've overcome the adversity. And so it represents that, something that my wife spoke about earlier, that the purpose of all relationships is to have character development. And in our ancient times, we had character development through a very, very, very 100% exact rites of passage when it came to intimate relationships. And it had to do with our conception date, not our actually birth date. So here in America, I know a lot of us are into signs, and we're into the Kemetic cosmology and astrology, or the Dogon cosmogony. And the Dogon is actually a more correct science because it deals with conception. Your birth date is actually your conception, not when you were physically born. And so, but the symbol itself represents this whole science. And we go into it in the book, how there was a person called the Moa Mogedi who was assigned to the women and divined the purpose of the child while in the womb, while other Moa Mogedis would divine who their mate was. And so this person was actually a part of you in the spiritual realm, but in the physical realm, they were sent to be the complement, what we call the mate. Not exactly like you, but the complement, the balance to what you are. And so if you're a talker like me, your balance is a quiet listener who has profound insight, like my wife. You know, if you're, the balance energy or the complement energy is what this science is about. And so we go into it in great detail in the book, and it's really simple, and I mean we all can relate to it. But now today, the commercialization of the word soulmate has gone crazy. The science of soul mating is still at hand because most people, all people only have one soulmate. But sometimes those soulmates are aborted in the womb, they die at birth, or they never meet them. So what we deal with is the science of soulmating, how you can soulmate, how you can complement your energy to the best of your ability with whomever you choose. Even if you're in, as we said before, polygamous relationships or what have you, this science needs to be employed. And so, it's really what's missing with our people because, we do a lot of culture, we do a lot of other stuff, but if we don't get this relationship thing down, we have no nation. Believe that. Diet is not going to do it. Prayer is not going to do it. We have to have intact families, whatever those families look like. And so that symbol is what, that Akoma symbol represents that. And Sankofa symbol, as you said earlier, is just reclaiming our past and going back to fetch what we have lost. And so, Nwasha, I don't know if you want to get into Valentine's Day.
I explaining the differences between the symbols, and I definitely want to get back to that science of soulmating because that is so true. If our families are not strong, we don't have a community, and we certainly can't have a nation. So we have to definitely let the families build up that love vibration for all of us because that is essential to life, love. So, but do you want to share anything about the so-called Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I think I think Valentine's Day is amazing. It's really interesting because it's geared towards women, I think, primarily, especially in the United States. I feel like women don't feel appreciated, so we want a day of love that is separate from Mother's Day, that's separate, that just honors us as a woman, as a intimate, beautiful thing. And I think that we don't realize that we latch on to Valentine's Day because we want that, but that in actuality there's some misogynistic rituals and tendencies that come along with Valentine's Day. Some of the major ones are, as Black people, to not understand the symbol of the Akoma. And this is the Adinkra symbol of the Akoma, but just to understand the science of that symbol and symbolic language, we feel a lot of times that the Europeans made Valentine's Day cards, and they may have made that name, but they're not the first people to send poetry. They're not the first people to, make tokens for love and do music and monuments and letters. And, we're the first people on the planet to have an organized written language. And to think that we would not be professing love in our language, it just shows that we are looking to, have certain feelings and emotions, but we're looking to get it through someone else's culture. So that's the primary thing, is that we're not claiming an original indigenous way to celebrate love for ourselves that has developed from ourselves. But the Valentine's Day symbolism, what we're using, a lot of holidays are a blend of several customs. So for Valentine's Day, anyone that you look up the history of Valentine's Day will say that it comes from Lupercalia, which is a ritual, it's a festival that really had to do with fertility. So it was at this time of the year, a little bit after this time of the year for the Roman calendar, that the middle of February was considered the beginning of spring. So it was considered almost close to the time that the earth was going to be renewing itself, and things would be green and the animals would come out and all of the things that we still do and think of for spring. But there are some rituals that actually abused women when it came to Lupercalia. So a couple of the rituals that abused women, women were flogged with some skins of animals. So when you're talking about not abusing animals and not abusing your sexuality, women were naked in part of this festival and just whipped with pieces of animal flesh, because it was common belief that was going to keep the woman fertile. So although that doesn't have anything to do with the woman's biology, it was part of a custom. Another custom was the exchanging of names or exchanging of cards, which came to kind of be blended in with the Valentine's Day card exchange, was for girls to have their names put into a jug. So it's kind of like a love jar, a sex jar, where men would pluck a girl's name and then be able to stay with her for the night, for the duration of the festival. And then sometimes people would get married, but it was not really of the woman's choice. So it was more along the lines of, these are the young girls and the women that we want to take, and it's kind of a lottery that the men can just pluck a name and have that girl for the festival or for as a wife. So some of those things that we do are definitely coming from the Lupercalia Festival, but Valentine's Day has also blended in other myths about Valentine, the saint, or a couple of different saints that are blended into one, and then also took the Cupid mythology. So most people think that Cupid is cute, a cute little baby, and what harm could he really be doing? But just the idea of falling in love without purpose is really what Cupid represents. So his true mythology is that he can shoot an arrow into someone and make them fall in love with another person. Or he could actually shoot arrows into people who love each other or who are family and make them dislike or make them hate each other. So a lot of people don't know that Cupid had both arrows. We kind of just use the romantic term and say that Cupid was just shooting love arrows, But even that term, when we're saying things are romantic, we're honoring Rome as though they are the first people to really solidify and to, uphold what love means for the entire planet. And I think it's very limiting when we say that something is romantic, especially as indigenous people. It's as though there was no love until Rome came along, and there was no expressions until Europeans exchanged Valentines. So I think that just understanding some of those things and really reframing the idea of falling in love and saying it's better for me to create love, to build up love, than to just haphazardly fall in love. And it's better for me to own my choices and my thoughts and my emotions than to say that someone like a Cupid could strike me or strike somebody else, and then that's what makes love. So I think that considering we give Valentine's cards out to children, and there are tons of children's books on Valentine's Day and children's cartoons, we're starting at a very early age with the indoctrination of something that is actually anti-original culture. So we're saying that, yes, you can believe in Cupid. Yes, you can look at this heart symbol and not really know where it comes from or not appreciate it. And, yes, you can go into this exchange with girls' names and boys' names at a very young age, at 4 years old, 3 years old. We're buying these things for our children. And we just don't know, we don't appreciate what it really imprints on them as they get older and then go into courting rituals themselves. So we're kind of setting them up for a fairy tale version of love that is absent from, the true purpose of fairy tales in our culture was to give you the tools, to give you the understanding of life, and to give you the understanding of character development through stories that you can remember. So the purpose of telling stories for us was that you can learn through this character, memorize this story, and embody it through this thing that we share. We share this common story that is the meaning of grace, that is the meaning of love, that is the meaning of the hero. So you can get this story and understand how you can embody the character development or that character trait yourself. But a lot of times in our current understanding, fairy tales are distorted, and we're giving that kind of information to our children about love and wondering why they have challenges when they are preteens and teens, and the desire for love is there because we're still having children, but the process and the strategy for real families and real relationships is not there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's deep. That is so deep. And I wonder how many people really do understand the history of certain holidays, such as Valentine's Day, before we just jump headlong into it. And because I remember even from, preschool, participating in activities and doing the crafts and sending out cards to one another, and whoever got the most cards, I guess you felt like you were loved the most or, or whatever. But I really appreciate the breaking it down and what the words and the symbols mean, as well as some of the traditions, and even like the words such as romantic, that we're honoring Rome for the illusion of love that a lot of people perceive. And that makes sense with why the state of relationships are in such disarray today. So
it definitely does. And let me tell you, Nwasha is such a great historian. She gave you such a clean version. Oh, I'm off the hook with it when I talk, because the Roman antics are devastating. Incidentally, I just have to say that when she talked about the women being flogged with that skin, that bloody piece of skin that they was raping them women with, that piece of skin is called February, and it is the reason that this month is called February. Incidentally. So that's very important to know. But there's so many things that we deal with in the book, and the Akoma Day book is a couple books in one. number one, it's just a conversation of black love and where we really are today, the majority of our people. I know that all of us, and probably most of the listeners of your show, have chosen a certain path, and that's a beautiful thing. Sacred women, divine sacred king man, myself, first class, African Nubian Kushite, Kemetic, Southern African initiations that we've participated in. But we're universal black people, and we understand that we're all one, regardless of our level of understanding and our practice. And so there's no elitism in what we're doing. We're all equal. But we know that the majority of our people are lost to the knowledge of our people, lost to the knowledge of themselves, lost to our practices and customs. And so you mentioned something about kindergarten and all of those times when we fall into things. No one understands that we're beautiful people. And one of the reasons that it's easy to mislead us with love rituals is because we're the authors of love. And so it's something that's innate in us. And so anytime we want to connect, it's one of the basic 6 human needs that we talk about in the psychology of relationships. We all have the same 6 human needs that we fulfill in different ways. But in the Akoma Day book, part of the book is just a discussion on black relationships, where we are right now in the intimate relationship, brother to brother, sister to sister. And we talk about our history, how we met, came together, et cetera, and all the craziness that we went through to become this counseling and consulting firm and bring the Akoma Day holiday to the world. Then the second part, we kind of talk about Valentine's Day, and we got into it, but we ain't go as deep as we could because we don't even want to give them too much light. But we really talk about it, its origin, how crazy it is, and the psychotic manifestation of these relationships that it spawned. But then the third part of the book is over 50 exercises now in the revision. It's over 50 simple exercises that you can do. Some of them you can do in 5 minutes. Some are, they're project-based and they take a week or so. But then some are more involved that you might want to share with your intimate partner, your children, whoever is close to you, that do deeper introspection into who you are and who you are becoming and what you want to purge and what you want to cultivate. We have, one of the exercises is a word purge and word cultivation chart. And we look at terms like falling in love versus standing in love or building love. We look at words like romantic versus zamunye or moritic or akomic. There's countless words that we use to express love, so I can't even list them all. But we look at some of the things that we're saying that really don't express intention or purpose, that really are just, first of all, not even our indigenous culture, so they don't have the vibratory essence of what black people talk like, that rhythm and that cadence that we get down with, whether it's Medunetta or hip-hop or pig Latin, whatever it is that we've created in the world. And so we talk about that. And so we have a series of exercises because we know and understand initiation, right? Initiation is doing. So if I tell you something, you'll remember some of it. You'll remember 20 to 30%. If I show it to you, you might remember 50 to 60% of it. But if you do it, you will remember 75 to 95% of it. And if you do it enough, if you repeat it enough, you'll become the information. You won't have to study it or memorize it. You become it, and then you advance it, and then you push it forward into posterity. And so that's why we are counselors by trade, and all of our books have actual exercises in them that you could do because our people need to do. Not hear, not quote, not memorize. We need to live Ma'at. We need to live Akoma Day every day. We need to live our beautiful many expressions that we have given to the world from our various cultures. Not just read them, study them, talk about them. We need to do them. And so that's what the 3 phases of the book is. A conversation, a breakdown of how to celebrate Akoma Day and what it is, the signs and symbols, what do you do, how do you celebrate it, how it originated, our relationship history, how we became famous, our crazy affair that we had, a honeymoon affair. And then we talk about exercises, something you could do. So it's a very quick read, but it's very interactive. So you get busy with it. You don't just sit with it. You know, you got to do something like every 2 pages, 3 or 4 pages that when you get into that workshop part of the book, you actually getting busy and developing yourself.
I agree with you again. We definitely have to do things to make them stick and to feel them and to know it. So I'm looking forward to seeing the book myself. And go ahead and share with us where we can get your book from, your website and information.
Our website is Akoma, Akoma, House Initiative. Because Akoma, as we already explained, the symbol, we believe that that's really what we founded our counseling service from, that place of love is service and understanding the signs and symbols of the universe so that we can use them to enhance and empower our relationships. And then house is just the protective covering of the relationship and of ourselves, is where your sacred space you can have some shelter in your house. And then initiative is, like we were saying, we really believe in initiation and becoming the information, becoming, the past, just definitely being initiated and initiating so that you can stay on your square. So it's AkomaHouseInitiative.com is our website. And actually you can take a look at the first chapter of the book for free if you just go to bit.ly/AkomaDay1. So anyone can go there and download the first chapter for free, and you can also purchase the book from there.
All right, wonderful. And I do want to just let our listeners know that we are taking questions this evening. So if you have called in and you have a question for our guests, just dial 1 and I will bring you in the conversation. If you have logged in, you can ask your question via the chat room, and we will share the question with our guests as well. And let's see, sis, did you have any questions?
I do have a couple of questions. I'll just pick one. How long have you been celebrating Akoma Day? Well, I guess it's a 2-part question. And have you? Is it something like that you learn about yourselves and each other each time you celebrate it? Or is it just more of a confirmation of what you already know? And so I guess that's really 3 questions. So let's just go with, how long have you celebrated Akoma Day?
Right. I got it. That's an excellent series of questions, and you like me because you asked loaded questions. All my questions got 3 parts to them. But, actually, Akoma Day, I was spending some time with our beloved ancestor, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, many years ago. And he was beginning the formation of Janame, what is now Janame. And I was really, really, I'm a love type of dude. So at that time, I really was seeking love relationships, and I was really looking at Valentine's Day. And instinctively, I knew that, that was, and I knew, I wasn't as astute as I am now in symbolic language, so I had no idea that this symbol was called the Akoma. I had no idea that it was an ancient symbol that, we definitely acknowledge the Adinkra, but the symbol goes back so far. It's just like black people. It has no birth record. It goes back so far into nature. It appears as flowers. It appears all throughout. It used to be a symbol for money. Check that out. It used to be on coins.
Wow.
When we say money can't buy you love, back in the day it could, because it was on there. But So I didn't know that. So Doc and I, me and Khaled were talking, and I was telling him, he told me about Janame, and I was like, man, that's so interesting because I've been really grappling. My soul has been grappling with Valentine's Day, and I really want to do something. At the time, I was not aware that there's this beautiful sister down, and she's an elder. She's down in D.C., and her name is Ayo Handy Kendi. She is the creator of Black Love Day, which is celebrated on February 13th, actually in 2 days. And it's Akoma Day is in its 13th year officially, but Black Love Day is in its 24th year, I believe, this year. And also Ayo Handy Kendi is the president of the African American Holiday Association. She's the creator of it, where she has a catalog of many of the African American holidays that have been created since the beginning of, when we were released from physical bondage during the enslavement period in our Ma'afa. So she catalogs those holidays, and she started a Black Love Day many years ago, and we were unaware of that, but we since now are very good friends with her, and we work together. In fact, she invited me to become the president of the African American Holiday Association, which I'm really contemplating and considering doing. But we love her. We stand on her shoulders. And so Akoma Day started in 1997 in my mind, and I began talking about it to my friends. At that time, I was not with Nwasha. We've been together for 15 years. We've been married, and at that time, I was not with her. But I had 2 children. I was wilding. I was out here dealing in relationships like a lot of us are. But this thing was on my heart. I was talking to my friends about it constantly, and they was like, this is on you. Do something with it. Do something. The ancestors are pulling you. So I started calling it Akoma Day, and we was doing it. We was kind of getting together, and I had, February 14th. It hadn't grown to 7 days yet, and I was developing it. But in 2001, when Nwasha and I came together, I tell brothers all the time, what you see in the physical reality is also spiritual as well, as Nwasha talked about in Unified Fruit, right? When you give your woman your physical seed, she takes that seed, fertilizes that seed in her egg, and gives you a beautiful physical child. But she also can do that with your ideas. And so you have to have that balance to give that idea to a sister who is your complement and who can bring life. Because Akoma Day was, I was talking it, and we was having little meetings. Yo, brother, I'm going to get the brothers together, bring your sister, whoever you talking to. We're going to come together to my house, and we're going to get together and talk about love on the 14th, because I'm creating Akoma Day. And I ran that circuit for about 4 years. But then when I met Nwasha, we had one conversation about it in our first year together. And when she came back to me, what she came back to me with was like this whole dynamic understanding of what Akoma Day should be. And it really became the seed to what it is now, a 7-day holiday with 7 symbols, 7 principles, 7 virtues. And so in 2001, we began inviting people to our house, and, where I was staying, which became both of our house quickly in our relationship. And we started inviting people over, but it was in 2003, which is the reason that we say this year is the 13th annual, that we really introduced it to the world. The book didn't come along till 4 years later in 2006, beginning of 2007. The book came along, and that's when we really started traveling around the country sharing it with people. But, it officially began in 1997, but it launched in 2001, and then it went national in 2003. Now it is currently in 13 countries around the world in small pockets. People are celebrating it, 100 people here, 200 people there. It's thousands of people here in the States that celebrate it. It's small, but it's growing, and we're just honored to be, to have it come through us. The ancestors choose us to bring it through. And so that's the first part of your question, I guess. That's when it started, 97, 2001, but officially 2003. And I talk so much I forgot the other parts of your question. Oh, what have see? My wife just reminded me. What have I learned? What have we learned? Akoma Day is infinite, just like knowledge is infinite. So knowledge is one side of a coin and ignorance is the other side. So knowledge is infinite because ignorance is infinite. So every time you learn something, you realize you didn't know. And so in our love relationship, we always say there is no relationship that develops your character like the intimate relationship. Because we pretense, we hotep, we do different things, but it's that intimate relationship that challenges us constantly. Unlike our children who really challenge us, to be patient, to understand, and to, whatever. But the intimate relationship is a peer relationship, one. So there's no hierarchy or there's no superiority or inferiority, hopefully. It's equality. And then number two, you're dealing with somebody who is your complement. So they reflect what you are in the complementary way. So we often say opposites attract, but that's a lazy term because what really attracts is complements. So a key and a lock are nothing alike, but two keys and two locks can produce nothing. But a key inside a lock can open a door to a wondrous mansion of your life. And so the key and the lock have a vicarious type of relationship because I need you and you need me, but you can't be me and I can't be you. But we need each other, and I can't really produce without you. And so it's the same in this relationship. So we're counselors, we're parents, we're business owners, we're best friends. We're greatest supporters. Sometimes most arduous critics. It's real. It's black love. So it has all the dimensions, and every day is a new adventure. We've been together for 15 years. And we've become famous. We've shared our shame together because our infidelity story was shown to 11 million people around the world. So we rock with each other. We crew. We're together, and so we're constantly learning about each other, constantly learning about ourselves. Whenever we do something in a relationship that is consistent with what we say or inconsistent with what we say, our children, we have 3 sons. I had 3 sons when I came into this relationship, and now we have 2 daughters. And so we have 5 children from 22 down to 5 years old. And so it's just a black love relationship. It's real. And so we're constantly learning and constantly evolving. And every year that we celebrate Akoma Day, incidentally, we take one of the principles, and the focus this year is Unified Mind, and the subtitle of the 13th annual Akoma Day is Black Love Matters. And so we're talking about why it matters in the face of all this brutality and craziness that we're seeing. Why is black love so important? What is it, first of all, and then why is it so important? So hopefully that's the answer to your question.
Oh, that was beautiful. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Black love matters.
Yes, it does.
I can rock with that.
Yes. And this brings us, we do have a question that came up in the chat room. How do we spread the significance of Akoma Day across the world to counteract Valentine's Day?
Well, we're on a mission to say Akoma Day is every day. So we actually come to speak in different organizations, so, spiritual organizations, educational, historical organizations. We do workshops all year, and, we are available to come or, to participate in someone else's event that's based in love. We also do Love Lessons, which is a program with youth, so in schools, elementary schools, high schools, and universities, we're doing relationship education so that, we can really let people know the symbolism of the Akoma, how to really be in relationships, how to have empathy and compassion and show love to each other, because, relationships are the most challenging thing. So because through initiation you are really going to work on yourself and become an example, it's just like anything else. When somebody is glowing and shining, you want to know what they're doing. So if they look really fabulous and beautiful and healthy, you're going to say, what are you doing? What do you use? What do you eat? What do you drink? Because something is just emanating off of you. And I think the same thing happens with love. We believe love is the healing, transformative power. It's the most amazing power of the universe. So when you are really happy and you are in love, for us, I think it's just being yourself, practicing the virtues and the principles, and just serving, because that's what's going to reverberate. I think that vibration is just going to be passed from person to person, and then that helps spread Valentine's Day. With the internet, it helps spread the Akoma Day. I was going to say, with the internet, people know the history of Valentine's Day. So it's much more common now to see a quick video, a little snippet that Valentine's Day is coming from Lupercalia. But I think that people don't pause because there's such a flood of information coming with social media the way that it does. It's a lot of true information, but it's so fast that literally we know once Valentine's Day comes, we're really going to be on St. Patrick's Day in our culture. And then before St. Patrick's Day is really over, we're going to be on Easter. It's just how we do. We're on a very materialistic and commercial society. The global society is that way, but very much so if you're in the United States. So it's a challenge because everywhere you go, there's a lot of Valentine's Day paraphernalia. But if you know what the Akoma is, the minimum that you can do is that type of thing. So just the discussion of our words, like romantic, the discussion of our symbols, that information spreads because we know that it's the truth. So it's really just a matter of talking about it, really sharing love, being love so that you can affect others. And then, we're always available to discuss the virtues and the principles and conduct workshops, and because we want people to be happy. We want people to know true unconditional love. And we let people know that you can, talk to us through Facebook, on YouTube, so that you can get some things without coming to a workshop to just improve your relationship. There's really that science of soulmating is very real and is very practical, but it's such a vulnerable place that we're in because we don't have success a lot of times in our relationships that we don't, we're afraid to be vulnerable. We're afraid to have our feelings hurt. But by holding on to that fear, we're actually stunting our own character development because like Montsho said, there is no other relationship that you will develop. I would hope that people do it with their children. But we all know that there's not always a level of conscious parenting because of that power dynamic. You can go put your child in a corner, you can put your child in their room, and you can choose to not deal with the things that your child brings out of you. So although you're taking care of them, sometimes the consciousness is not there. But in the peer relationship, when someone is holding you accountable to your beliefs and wanting you to grow, and you actually have to participate in that to choose to grow together, then there's no higher level of accountability for that. And what we do on our own, we definitely are able to grow. We're able to, move towards healing for ourselves. But a lot of times we don't have to hold ourselves accountable. So whatever we want to be on for the day or the week or the year or the decade, we can do that if there's not a person intimately connected to us that's calling us to do better, to be better, and challenging us on our beliefs. And so we move away from that a lot of times, and we don't realize that even if we feel that we are on our path and we're living our purpose, that purpose is automatically spiritually magnified when we meet a compliment. Just because that person is calling for our own character development all of the time, whatever we are so great in our purpose can only go further and be better and do more when we have the accountability that's making our character develop. So many times we get caught up in our work, and we get caught up in, I'm just going to grind it out, and if I meet someone, but we have to have the same grind and the same passion in our love relationships, because at the end of the day, that is what we're working for. That is what we're living for, and that reconnection and unification is the deepest spiritual understanding that we're going to have. So I think that the best thing we can do to spread Akoma Day is to really just talk about true ritual and indigenous love and understand the signs and symbols that are here for us.
Nice.
And buy that book.
Buy the book and share the book and buy another book.
Buy that book, that Akoma Day merchandise, T-shirts, coffee cups. We got a greeting card line. We're looking for more artists. We got newlyweds. We got programs for everybody. We got Akoma Day kits coming soon. So when you put your Akoma Day altar, if any of you have seen the book or seen any of the posters and you see the beautiful Akoma Day kit, we have those coming. So I'm talking about the commerce part. That's beautiful what she said. Buy that stuff. Buy that official Akoma Day stuff, and we're looking for Akoma Day ambassadors all around the world that we can train, that can really be the citadels in their area that can promote Akoma Day every day. And we have many of them, and we're looking for more because this is something that came through us, but we don't particularly own it. It will hopefully outlive us and our stay here, and so somebody has to carry the baton. We have our family, but we need all of our people to collectively get into this because this is who we are as a people. We all talking about love. We all want love, whether it's on an intimate level or whether it's on a communal level. That's what we want. So we don't want no hate. We want we want love. We want to come together, and so we need each other. Us two, as two individuals, even with the several people that we have, we can't do this alone. And so we're starting to spread it right now. Akoma Day groups are in London. They're in Eritrea. They're in Ghana. They're in Canada, Brazil, Germany, of course the U.S., the United Arab Emirates, Botswana, Italy, Morocco, Bermuda, Jamaica, and Haiti. There are small groups that are celebrating Akoma Day, and we need, it's 8 million black people on the earth. We need somebody spreading Akoma Day everywhere we are. So, that's what I think.
Are the products everywhere that the Akoma groups are? We have someone in the chat room asking if y'all ship to the UK.
Yeah, we do ship to the UK. We have some people reaching out to us. And what the challenge is, this is what the challenge is, and this is why I say seriously, any artists who are under the sound of our voice, and I'm sure I know your listening audience are very artistic people, any artists that can help us with greeting cards, that can help us with the kits, because we're in the 9th year of really pushing it internationally, and people that we've worked with, we don't have one particular person making our kits. We don't have one particular person designing our cards. And so relationships evolve for whatever reason. People move away or we lose contact, or because of the way, like we have some people in Ghana reaching out and we're trying to work out this shipping thing, which makes things hard. Anybody who knows what it's like to ship even a feather over from Africa, the feather itself might be 20 cents, but the shipping could be like $8 a feather, so it becomes, and we're independent, so we don't always have the capital to supply the demand. So what we've done is said, let us, if you're interested, let us authorize you as an official Akoma Day ambassador, and then you organize in your area, and we'll work out a deal so that you can actually get some commerce off of it and then help us to spread the holiday, because we may not be able to control or influence in London the way somebody who's popping in London will. So we just want to have respectful commerce as the creators. But then after that, you rock with it and you do it your way. So the short answer to your question is yes, we ship, but we don't have outposts. So we rely on individuals who are living ma'at in the path of truth, justice, righteousness, and reciprocity to work with us.
All right. So if I want to celebrate Akoma Day and get my family in on it, what are the basic things that I need to do? Because when I look at your page, it reminds me, honestly, similar to a Kwanzaa setup, because I see that you have the altar and everything, So can you kind of give us a brief kind of walkthrough of what Akoma Days or the 7 Akoma Days would look like, or how that would go through?
Well, we do use the candles or, a Kanara, because there are 7 days to Akoma Day. But what you're really doing with Akoma Day is starting with the regular tenet of a ritual. You're going to do some type of prayer or call for a divine, loving presence in your life. So you can do the ritual yourself, or you can do it with a family member in an intimate way and have a love altar, like an intimate altar, or you can do it very much like Kwanzaa, have a family altar. So what you're doing is really just setting the tone by honoring, the ancestors and making the verbal tonal call to have the presence for the ritual. And then you're going to pour libation and then light a candle for the day of Akoma Day that it is. So you're going to light the candle and then be ready to honor that virtue and principle. So in honoring the virtue and principle, you can say a pledge, you can say, you can challenge yourself, you can journal and think about what it is that you need to do in order to honor it. And so it's really just a matter of you developing those character traits for yourself. And we say that that's really focused question. So if you say, hey, how can I be more flexible? You might take that question literally and say, I need to stretch, I need to do some yoga, I need to, be more figurative and maybe be more fluid with my children or more flexible in my ideas. But you're going to make a decision to purposefully grow in that area. And you're setting the tone on that day, but it could take you a week, a month, or the whole year could be that focus. So focus questions, you're going to actually share with yourself or with your mate what your purpose is. So what your love, mission, vision, and purpose is. And you can do that in a statement that we tell people you can carry it around on like a blank business card if you want to put it in your wallet and you want to read your purpose times per day, or you can leave it on your altar, you can exchange it with someone, but it's really another way for you to be accountable. And then we use the Yoruba tradition of tasting the elements. So in celebrating Akoma, you taste the bitter, bland, sweet, and sour of a relationship, and to physically ingest, the sweetness that love is, the power that love is, the bitterness that love is. So we use that ritual, which a lot of people do use in wedding ceremonies. And then we use a feather for ma'at to have some type of feather talk. And that can be just your emotional self and really thinking of ma'at and embodying the idea of a light heart. Or you can actually do that in a group setting and have a conversation that's really from the heart. And then we kind of reaffirm whatever it is that we're getting from the ritual. So going through those things are always emotional. There's an element that has some structure in ritual, but then there's an element that's very open, that you don't know what you're going to receive from your divine self or, your ancestors or whatever's going to come to you about what you need to do. So once you go through those first motions, you would end up recommitting to whatever it is that you have gotten. So you can say whatever pledge that you've written for yourself, or you can recite a prayer or pledge that you already, that is already written to kind of reaffirm that virtue and principle for the day. And then you can have fun. So we say to tell stories, to play games. you can give a gift of love, but it should be a gift that's really either made with love or that's supporting Black businesses. And then you can have a feast. So it's really the celebration is coming together, and now you're going to ingest some delicious food. So it's very much a traditional ritual and a traditional holiday that encompasses those things, and it just has a focus of character development in the area of love and love relationships.
And so we outline everything in the book, how you do it, and the signs, the symbols, what they mean, what they represent, how to set up your Akoma altar, and some of the basic things that you should do. We set the basics, but then we encourage everyone to be creative in their love expression and, have your feast, play your music, dance, make love, whatever it is that, because lovers or people who express love, they do that all year. But in our holiday expression, everything is heightened. So in Halloween, people are trying a weak attempt to, interact with the ancestors. In Easter, it is renewal. In Christmas, it is rebirth. It is spiritual ascension. And so when you look at Janame, or when you look at Black Love Day, or when you look at Black Marriage Day, or when you look at Black Love Day or Akoma Day, you're looking at those same things. And that's why so many elements of these holidays are similar, because they just are the hyper expression of Black culture. Black culture is similar wherever we go. So when we say Mushima wa Akoma, which is the candle that represents the soul and the spiritual being of our ancestors, we find that with the indigenous Black people in India, in Brazil, in Africa, in China, in the Americas, and on other planets. if we talk about pouring libations, that is there. If we talk about giving gifts, that is there. If we talk about symbolic imagery, whether it's the Medu Neter, the Sanskrit, the Adinkra, that is there. So there are universal tenets of Black love celebrations, or the communal experience of Black people, that is anciently known as ritual. Of course, that's not the name, but that's the English translation. But ritual that represents, our divine unity. And so Akoma Day definitely has that. We outline it well, step by step. Every sign, every symbol, it's 7 signs, it's 7 symbols, and how you set up your altar. But then there's some steps that we encourage. I don't want to say must, but that we encourage in order to be an official Akoma Day celebration that must be in play. But then after that, we say get down however you get down. What you been doing for Valentine's Day before you start celebrating Akoma Day, or what you been doing for love. If you buying gifts, you buying diamonds, make sure they're not conflict diamonds, and make sure if you can they come from Baba Haru or somebody like that who makes the Sa, the African Kemetic emblem. If you buying Black people, if you're getting good food, make sure it's heart healthy food, and get it from Black people. If you want to go out, go to a Black establishment. If you want to watch a movie, make sure Black people in it. This is a Black love expression holiday, and so do what you do. Follow these simple guidelines, but then after that, do what you do and enjoy yourself and show your love.
I love that. Go to the movie with Black people and go to the Black restaurant and show Black love in all ways. Yes, that is beautiful. And I did want to ask you to talk a little bit more about the science of soulmating, because I know a lot of people get caught up in their ideals of what they think their relationship should be, and sometimes just miss the whole point of growing in love and learning, to build with someone who you share similar interests with.
Yeah, definitely. We quote Ross Ben all the time, who is a brother that we did and I know you work with Ross Ben, but we did. Nisa Ra had an annual conference called Black Love Lives, and we actually, with her permission, are continuing with Black Love Is, because she had some interruption. I don't know if she's still doing it, but we just saw her in Philadelphia recently, and we was kicking it with her. But Ras Ben said something in this video that was so profound. It was like a paradigm shift moment for us, because it really articulated something that we were getting at in our work. He says, in order to find your soulmate, you first have to find your soul. And, you know, over here in America, we have this thing where we interchange spirit and soul. So, you know, we say mind, body, spirit, or you know, that's what we say a lot of times, or mind, body, soul. The spirit and the soul are not the same thing. The spirit is actually what we call the mind. The collective mind is the grand spirit that we share in. Your personal mind is also your spirit. When people say, you know, my spirit today, you're actually talking about your mind. And what the mind is way more expansive than what we've been taught here. So I'm not going to go into that now. But our ancestors did an excellent job with the Ab. The Nile Valley ancestors really broke down what the Ab and the Ba is. The Ab is the mind, but the Ba is something else. And the Ka is the soul. The soul is actually the culmination of your thought, speech, and action and your particular life experience. What has led to who you are today, the culmination of the way you think, the way you talk, the way you act, the experiences that you have had, that is actually what your soul is. But now there is a counterpart to your soul that was a part of you physically, literally physically. We're not talking about metaphorically or we're talking about literal. You are actually one half of a being. This is ancient science that our ancestors taught in the Nile Valley. They taught it in India. They taught it in Botswana. They taught it in Mali. They still teach it there. They teach it in Brazil. This is ancient black science of what the soulmate is. And so it is the complement. So it's not two women. It's not two men. We know that that's not our culture. My aunt teaches us that well if we don't know anything else. And the truth of the matter is there's only one, because the one becomes singularity. It becomes duplicity by separating. And this story was actually hidden or codified in the Adam and Eve story, which is where the confusion of woman came from a rib. Now, it became a misogynistic view because you could easily say man came from the rib of a woman. But they took the story, as Nwasha said, that was a high symbolic mythology and turned it into a fairy tale story of this Adam and Eve story. But, you know, I'm not advocating that story, but what I'm saying is that aspect of the story, that one of us comes from a part of the other one, is actually a Sanhedrin Jew misinterpretation of the science of soulmates. And so the soulmates were one being on a spiritual realm that separated at conception. So obviously one is conceived before the other. And so when one is separated from the one who's in the spiritual realm, the one who is separated becomes self-conscious at that moment. The one who is still in the spiritual realm, that separation is only a moment, even if that separation lasted for years, because in the spiritual realm there is no time or space. There's only time and space when there's movement in the terrestrial plane. And so this person is actually the literal other half of you. They are the counterbalance to what you know yourself better than anybody else, right? But you can't always see yourself. So if I was in a room with you and I said, oh, you have something on your nose, your immediate reaction would be to wipe off your nose. But it might not even be anything on your nose. So I can see you better than you can see yourself, but you know yourself better. So you know the internal feelings and the understanding that you have. But our ancestors taught us this science and said that your complement is this divine person that is the other half of you. When you reunite, you were born for a divine purpose. The complement or the helpmeet or the helpmate of that purpose is your soulmate, because your purpose is the culmination of your life experience or your soul in this terrestrial plane. Now, this was the origin when they used that Moa Mogedi person, that person who was assigned to pregnant women to divine the purpose of the child who was coming. And the child would usually speak to the Moa Mogedi through the mother's voice during trance rituals. And the purpose of that child would be revealed in a very cryptic form, a parable or whatever. Other Moa Mogedis would be consulted around the land or in other countries or other regions to find what is the exact complement. And that would also be known when another Moa Mogedi would say, I have a child coming who says that this is their purpose. And the purposes would fit like a lock and key, and you would know unequivocally that this is the soulmate to that person. So there were many things that were involved that no longer exist, like a Moa Mogedi, which has become what today's doulas are and these midwives. They're living the practical function of what a Moa Mogedi was, but they're not living the spiritual function because most times they don't have the initiation of that kind of spiritual insight. And then the cosmology of your birth from the conception, with the exception of the Dogon and a group of people in the southern part of Africa, I don't know anybody on earth that I know of, and of course my knowledge is limited, but I don't know anybody on earth that is trained in that science. We are not trained in that science, although we know about it. What I see is that even amongst a lot of the black people, they take European astrology and they put like black terms on it, like from Dandara or other places where we have the Kemetic cosmology, but it's not dealing with conception, it's dealing with birth. And so it's already a year behind. And so actually what we know as our signs are not our signs. So those two elements are very key to the science of soulmate, and it was the essence of what arranged marriages were, because your soulmate was the complement to you, and so the whole country was committed to finding your soulmate. And the children would usually meet in their early, in their infancy, and they would begin to develop a friendship that would eventually end in marriage and the fulfillment of their divine purpose for the greater good. It is a very profound, beautiful science. Now we hear today, we don't got a lot of that. A lot is broken. A lot is hurt. And it's not gone. It's just hidden for a period of time cycle. And the people who understand what that means, I won't go into that. This time cycle is ending. And so many, many things are coming back into the forefront, and that's why Akoma Day exists. And we're actually sharing the science of soulmating. So this as it starts to reemerge, from the veil that it was hidden behind, we're seeing that this is where arranged marriages came from. And when the Europeans came amongst our people, of course they corrupted that. And many of our people through collision were corrupting it. And so we began to marry for money, and we began to marry for different things that we were trying to survive through our ma'afa. So we were making strategic moves that we understand and respect. But the ancient science of soulmating is what I just contextualized. The modern science is what Nwasha and I share is how you can soulmate with anyone who you choose. They might not be your spiritual soulmate from eternity, but what you can do is create the most beautiful relationship that you can actually make by understanding the science of complement, the science of complementary energy, and unification and coming together with divine purpose. What is the purpose of your life? Because there is a complement to that purpose, and that is the person or people. If you're in a polygyny type of situation, we talk about that as well, because of our culture and where we are right now, there's a disparity of men and women. Polygamy did not always exist. But men and women are even today born at equal rates, but the men die much, much faster than the women, and they die at greater numbers because of wars and different things. And incidentally, brothers, if any brothers are listening, the men who last and live the longest are married. So the science of soulmating is really dealing with these sciences, with this ancient historical science, to put it into context so everybody can stop jacking our term and saying they're soulmates with their cat or they're soulmates with their dog, or they have 1,400 soulmates, So that's the first part. And then number two is we putting it in cultural context, one. And then number two, we're giving you something practical. We don't want to talk up in the sky and have everybody, and then they close the book and be depressed and go slit their wrists because they haven't found their soulmate. We want to make it very practical that you could say, out of these 50 exercises, I'm taking these 3 right now, and I'm going to work on these all week or all month or all year, and I'm going to make my relationship better, or I'm going to prepare myself by mastering my soul, like Ross Ben said, and then mating, putting myself in position to find the person, going to the places, being around the people. If you're a single woman, not moving to Atlanta. Much respect to Atlanta, but you ain't getting married there. But you finding where you're going, and you're going to come together with your divine mate and create a life of purpose that will ultimately benefit the greater good. Because it's not just about you feeling good emotionally and reaching some orgasmic high. It's about you serving your people. And that's not always a comfortable feeling because it requires sacrifice and character development.
Oh, yes. That is just, I appreciate you sharing the historical aspect of the soulmating, and I am one who is old soul, and I feel that we do need to arrange marriages and turn back to some of those old ways, and I'm sure with so many doulas and more doulas learning to work with our women that we will be able to channel that divination process again. I'm feeling that for sure. So,
right.
Thanks.
And many people are really good at it. Many people are really, they're all of the wisdom of our ancients. We, as Baba and Fadishi says, as Baba Haru used to teach us often, we are our ancestors. We are them. They are. We exist in multiplicity. We exist in the Trinity, in the Triad. So we're in the celestial, the terrestrial, and the duat. So the past, present, and future. There is no time, space that holds us. We hold all things. And so when we pray to our ancestors, we're actually channeling former versions of ourselves, and we're promoting future versions of ourselves. And it is the now that gives us, the past and the present. And so, I don't want to sound like I'm alienating the many beautiful people that exist today that have, Nwasha is a reader in the Kemetic oracle system. I know many brothers and sisters who do the cosmology, many doulas and midwives who are amazingly beautiful and have these skills because these skills are latent, hidden within us, and they're now starting to vibrate back to the fore. So all of our beautiful traditions, the Akan, the Igbo, the Kemetic, the Botswana, the Zulu, all of these different, the Dogon, all of these black people in America, the Moors, the Hebrews, the Muslims, all people who recognize that we are one as indigenous black people and we're universal, whether it's, on Saturn, Earth, or in, another galaxy. We're universal. And so these things are coming back to the fore. And as they do come back to the fore, people like yourself who we look up to and who we admire and say, she is the proof that our ancestors are awake and they hear us and they are us. And so, I just wanted to make that point. I didn't want to alienate anybody saying you don't know what you're doing or anything like that. I don't want, there is no elitism. We are one.
I see. And we are in alignment with that as well at the Raiseki Temple. So our time has just passed so quickly, and we do have a few minutes left. I just want to give you all a few minutes to share any last thoughts with our listeners before we close.
Okay, I have one. I'll let Nwasha go first.
Well, I just want to share that I really want everyone to have the most empowered love relationships that they can have. So I really, pray and work to make sure that everyone knows love, because I think that it's through love that you are supported and that the blessings, that your gifts are really shared in community and in love. So the more that we can love each other, the more that we can love our children, our natural gifts that we come here to share will actually be of use in the community. And, the true purpose of a Moa Magedi, or the shaman who is really working with the mother and the infant, is so that person will come and share their gifts and be matched with their complement so that their character is perfected while they're in this physical existence. So I wish that everyone would know that kind of love and be able to have their character empowered. I think that the biggest regret that we see when we do our research is that the oldest people on the planet credit their longevity to their relationships. And the only regrets that people say when they're centenarians, they're 110, they're 120. I just saw someone in, I think it was Nigeria, the oldest woman on the planet right now. Most people will say that the thing that, if they had any regrets, it is the things that they did not do, or the relationships that they let go of, or the times when they were afraid to really love. Because when you're either faced with your transition, so if you are ill and you believe that your transition is coming, and someone has told you that you have a terminal illness, the 5 regrets of the dying, that blog and book that went around, the number one regret was that you didn't spend time with your family, that you didn't take your relationships seriously, and you regretted, again, the things that you did not do. So my wish for everyone is that you step into the practice of true unconditional love for yourself and for each other, so that your true gift that the world needs, that the community needs of you, can come out, and that you don't live a long life where at the end of all of your work and at the end of all of your passion, and at the, when you're facing your return to the essence, that you're saying, I did not live fully, I did not love fully while I had my opportunity this one time around. And as this personality, I did not go all in and really know that kind of love, because I just feel it's the most important thing on the planet.
And that was beautiful, babe. And what I would add to that is keep it real. Be honest with yourself. You want love. If you have love, you want it to be better. We want our relationship to be better. One of the ways that we set up, Nwasha said, one of the techniques that we teach people in our counseling firm, when people say, we just growing apart, we say that every emotion has an opposite or a complementary emotion, and all emotions have a positive intent or a useful intent or a purpose. So even the emotions that we call negative, like anger or fear or frustration, they are there to serve a purpose. So anger teaches you to self-nurture and to self-love. It calls for that. Fear calls for you to pay close attention. So you ever notice in a scary movie, whenever you see the killer's about to come or something, everybody's like hyper, like, listen, what's that? Did you hear it? They're paying attention. Frustration is calling for creativity, is calling for you to come up with a different way, because what you're doing is not working. So all these emotions have a function. They have a purpose, and that's why they're placed in our being, because They serve a purpose. Nothing that exists is purposeless. So I would say be honest with yourself and begin to develop, and don't be afraid of your character development. Get the Akoma Day book, and I say that for many different reasons, as a businessman, but as a servant of my people, in the exercise portion, before we begin the exercise portion, we lay down some basic ground rules. Just be honest with yourself. And so not just to say it, tonight we didn't get much into our relationship history and how we met and how we came together. But if you've ever seen Akoma Day anywhere, or if you've ever come to one of our presentations, I perform a poem every year that grows every year because our relationship grows, and it's about the history of our relationship. We became famous, was on Oprah Winfrey and stuff because of an affair, a double honeymoon affair that we had. And 11 million people saw that. But we start that section of the book with a real argument that me and Nwasha had at one time, and how we broke down how our thought, speech, and action through our 7 senses, the 5 physical senses that we know of, and then the 2 spiritual senses, which is our thoughts and emotions, can create misunderstandings. And so we showed an argument that we had to really make it plain for people that we're not playing around. We saying really work on yourself, Really, really get into yourself. And our ancestors said it well, know thyself and you know God. And so we really, that's what we about. And we really trying to help, we really striving to help our people, because we don't try, we do, or we work on. But we're striving to help our people come to the love of self in each other. And so I just say keep it real, like really, really work on you. And that's the greatest gift you could give to your nation.
I say. Do I could just feel the love coming from both of you, and I just have to say I love you both. I love the work that you're doing. You are definitely spreading that love vibration, and for everyone who is listening, make sure that you get that book, Akoma Day. It sounds like it is something that we all need to read so that we can increase our love vibration and, make our relationships stronger and ourselves overall, and deal with that character development. Ooh, yes, you all touched on some points. Sister, did you want to share anything, Sister Aura, before we?
They said it all. Support. Check out their webpage. Go to their Facebook page. Share the information. And live Akoma. I love that. Just live it, because we do need it. We need it in our relationships, in our homes, and in our communities. We cannot go any further not loving ourselves the way we ought to be loved. And I appreciate the virtues and the principles that are established within this realm of Akoma Day. It is definitely, I'm sure, if people really do pay attention and apply them, will find that their relationships are strengthened. So I'm grateful, to the both of you. What is your name jointly, Nwasha?
That was a joke, because when we first got onto Facebook at the time, it was a lot of Brangelina and Benifer. It was a lot of jokes years ago about a couple being together. And we also didn't want separate Facebook pages because we didn't want to manage them, all those years ago. So we kind of just made a name up that would represent both of us while we were online. So it's really only that way on Facebook. But it's you can tell who's speaking normally, even though we both use the account. You can tell the feminine energy normally and the masculine energy.
The people that know us well, they know I'm the ignorant one. So they be like, I know that's Montsho talking. But we have Nwasha Edu, which is our last name means love, and it's Edu. But we also have a fan page called Akoma Day Every Day, where we really focus on the holiday. Nwasha is like us behind the scenes and some of the stuff that we do in the Akoma House Initiative Counseling Consulting Firm. But Akoma Day Every Day is really the 7 virtues, principles, signs, and symbols every single day, how you rock with it all year long.
All right. Well, we thank you all for joining us. We give thanks to our listeners. We invite everyone to join us again next Thursday and celebrate Black Love this weekend. Show love to each other. Go out and support our Black businesses. If you are buying gifts, make sure to support the Black bookstores, especially visit the Akoma House Initiative website as well as the Raseki store site and Raseki healing site. Thank you all. Much love and light. Uncle Jasaneb. Until the next time. Thank you.
It was a good show.
For a limited time at Sprint, get $50 for each new phone you lease when you switch. That's right. You'll get $50 for each new phone on a prepaid MasterCard issued by MetaBank member FDIC. Just register for the card online and you're good to go. Get a network built for unlimited and a great price at Sprint. It's the best of both worlds. And get $50 on a prepaid MasterCard for each phone you lease. Visit a Sprint store this weekend only for sizzling Sprint Saturday deals.
Card terms, conditions, and expiration apply.
The all-new Toyota RAV4 asks, what if? What if your ride was refined and rugged at the same time? Introducing a car that's got style and substance to spare. The all-new RAV4 Limited, featuring a sophisticated, muscular new exterior and available options like a premium JBL audio system and panoramic roof. The all-new RAV4 Limited. Toyota, let's go places. JBL and Clarifier, registered trademarks of Harman International Industries, Incorporated.